Pizza good.
Oh. So good. I fucking love pizza.
Seriously though, there's been an everlasting debate about what the best kind of pizza is, and how to even prepare that kind of pizza. It's a pointless debate honestly, because as we all know, the best kind of pizza is deep dish pizza. No question about it. Not only that, there's an entire debate about what the best pizza restaurant is. Usually in my experience, people say either Domino's or Pizza Hut, and for a while Pizza Hut was at the top of the chain, because during the 90s it had many promotions going on with various video games and film. There was the iconic Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game for the NES that included a coupon for a free pie, as well as the PlayStation 1 demo discs that Pizza Hut had. Domino's, however, struggled with creating lasting marketing that people would fondly remember. The only things that people could really remember, as far as I'm aware, was the 30-minute guarantee and the Noid.
Pizza.
Domino's Pizza delivers quality. It takes fresh baked quality to avoid the Noid.
Pizza.
For the most part, Domino's has really struggled to maintain any sort of memorable advertising comparatively to others in the fast food industry. All anyone I've asked that can remember is the 30-minute guarantee, the Noid, and a few of the offshoots that have been done in recent years. The 30-minute guarantee was great, until it was statistically more likely to be hit by a Domino's driver than it was to be crushed by a vending machine. There was also a time that they had a guy on Tinder that was promoting something? I don't quite know. They also had a moment where you could order a pizza on Twitter by tweeting out the pizza emoji. How that worked is beyond me. Essentially, most of Domino's promotionals have been trying to relate to the modern children. Tinder, emojis, GIFs. They even had just a little robot guy that went out and delivered pizzas.
Pizza.
What is my purpose?
You deliver pizza.
Oh my god.
Yeah, welcome to the club, pal.
Domino's had made the attempt, like many other fast food companies, to leap into the genre of advertainment, advertising through video games.
Pizza.
Ah, Pepsi Man, you got here just at the perfect time. I got a call that a vending machine ahead ran out of Pepsi, and I was just on my way there when I got a flat tire.
Games that were meant to advertise were a prominent aspect of the industry for a long time. Up until the early Xbox One or PS4 generation, did I personally notice that there was a lack of new video games released to tie in with a recently released movie, as well as a lack of any notable games based on television or film. Not saying it didn't exist, but that I personally didn't see a whole lot of it like I did as a kid. Domino's first attempt at this was a 2D platforming game called Avoid the Noid for Commodore 64 and MS-DOS. In Avoid the Noid, you play as a Domino's delivery guy who has to deliver a pizza to the 30th floor of an apartment building that is also swarming with Noids. You can tell by the look on his face, all he's thinking about is how he isn't getting paid enough to deal with these zany little bastards. Surprisingly, this game gives you a pretty versatile moveset, being able to run, walk, or dive to make progress and avoid Noids. Each stage is 3 floors, and as you get progressively higher, the more Noids will swarm the level, which they will use anything they can get their greasy little hands on, from water balloons to fucking flamethrowers. The MS-DOS version was received way better than the Commodore 64 version, mostly due to being better visually. Domino's second attempt to break into the video game industry was Yo Noid for the NES. Capcom, yes, that Capcom, had made a Japan-exclusive game titled Kamen no Ninja Hanamaru for the Famicom Disk System, and Domino's would later team up with Capcom, overhauling the entire game except for the fundamental gameplay systems, to release in America. Yo Noid has you running around New York City to stop Mr. Green, a Green Noid, who is leading a gaggle of wild creatures. The game is quite odd, as the Noid is typically presented as a villain, trying to destroy the pizzas, but this game attempts to retcon him to be a hero, or at the very least an anti-hero, as he's saving the city not to protect it, but for a big pizza reward. Sounds kinda selfish. It's a challenging game, at least for me.
the inexperienced, albeit fanatical gamer. Noid left a very interesting legacy as a game that people both fondly remember and have no idea of. In 2017, Itch.io, the indie game website, held the New Jam City Game Jam and had a specific rule of the game's title needing to be from an episode of the Waypoint Radio podcast. Episode 58 was called Noid Was Ahead of Its Time. Noid 2 takes place directly after the first game. The Noid is taking his big pizza reward home, but he notices that his yo-yo is missing and rushes to go find it. The game is very clearly influenced by the PlayStation 1 aesthetics of low-poly models and that notorious texture wobble that's in so many games. After being whisked away when he finally obtains his yo-yo, the Noid finds himself in familiar territory, the Noid Void, a vast, desert-esque land populated by pizza boxes and various pizza toppings such as olives and garlic dips. Since this game was made within a month, it's only about an hour's length if you're familiar with it. However, this game doesn't have a set level sequence, so it really doesn't matter which order you play the levels in, since there's only 3 of them, not including the final level, which will always be the final level. The first level I played was Plazanet. Pizza Planet. You get it? A grassy planet level with a shifting gravity mechanic as the centerpiece. There's several points where you could easily break out of bounds and meander around. There's a melon guy who's very possessive about this empty space, and even a little temple with a pizza chicken in it. I truly feel like a winner chicken dinner whenever I see him. After a bit of exploring and hitching a ride on a bird, we come across a rocket launch, except the garlic dip responsible tells us they're missing the green key that opens the door to actually launch the rocket. We get the key from the center of the Earth and then hitch a ride on the rocket, landing on a presumably undiscovered planet. After gathering the 5 keys, we unlock a floating temple that contains a piece of the giant pizza monument that lies in the center of the void. That they used to worship this statue, but I assume we'll find out as we continue on. Plazanet holds a secret. It's under the water. Goes by Ken. Ken is aware. He has seen things. He speaks of an unknown and unseen man. One that can be stopped. Moving on. Domino's dungeon contains a labyrinthine temple dedicated to the glory of Domino's, focused upon this central rotating pillar that allows the Noid to access the 2 offshoot rooms that lead to key doors. The right side, the side that makes more sense to go to first, has a small pillar as the focal point that the Noid must scale to reach the top, and slide boxes into a hole. Why these boxes are here is a mystery to everyone. After a bit and a half of platforming, we obtain a red key, which allows us to get into the room containing the next piece of the pizza statue. This level sticks in my head as being really hard when I first played it, but mostly because I was trying to gather all of the pepperonis, and one had always managed to evade my grasp. The Swing Factory is aptly named, being a giant pizza factory that you can swing in. The first section is dedicated to this hook pathway with sausages on it, which leads us to the cheese section of the level, which is just a lot of rotating pizza cutters with molten cheese at the bottom. Getting through the inside of the factory leads us to the shipping area, filled with these sea cans that are to be sent to only what I can assume is the various Domino chains around the world. More bounding around and hooking our way through, we get to the last piece of the pizza monument. Pizza time! Which allows us to reach this ominous planet above the void. The core is this black and blue moon residing above the void, upon which rests a castle of sorts, with a big blue H on the doorway. Ripping it open reveals a hole that leads deep into the moon. Inside the void core is this black abyssal area, filled with grates, CRT TVs, and pipage. All that can be heard is the sounds of buzzing CRTs and occasionally the heavily distorted voice of Scott. After climbing through the level and breaking the TV, you take a leap of faith into the very core of the core, and you find him, the conductor of all the happenings in the Noid Void. Hatsune Mike. Sitting across a long desk is Hatsune Mike, an older gentleman who is surprised to see us. Mike soon reveals that the Noid has been dead this entire time,
and that he's the one responsible for taking the Noid's yo-yo. He also reveals that he has created a new Noid for a new age, one that's for the people, a vocal Noid, you could say. He also reveals his plans to completely erase the Void, its inhabitants, and the Noid himself, but that he's now going to take out the Noid a lot sooner than expected. Then the one and only boss fight begins. The boss fight is very neat as Mike never directly attacks, instead preferring to float around while his electrically charged dance pad attempts to fry the Noid. As the dance occurs, dice fall from above. The Noid must yo-yo them at Mike to harm him. When defeated, Mike reveals that the Noid's replacement is already out for delivery, and that no matter what happens, the Noid and the Void will be destroyed entirely. It's a bit of a tragic ending, you know? The Noid's efforts were all in vain. So it's pretty clear this was a riff on the 2013 promotional campaign between Domino's and Hatsune Miku, where the then president, Scott, did a video that was kinda memed to shit when it came out. The ad was pretty simple. Domino's had special boxes that could be read by their own app to turn into a live stage of sorts for Hatsune Miku, who is a digital performer, not very real. However, that's not the end of the Noid's story. Almost an entire year later, the team went back to Noid 2 and released, alongside various gameplay and bug improvements, a remastered version of the game. For the most part, the game remains unchanged, but there were a few improvements that they sprinkled in, such as the pillar in the temple now moving at a much faster rate. As well as the drawers you pull out in the swing factory being a lot lighter than they were before. Something else they added was a functional purpose for the pepperonis and the pizza chickens. If you gather all of the pepperonis in a level, you get a cool pepperoni passion sound effect, and as a result, the pizza box you entered turns gold, along with a piece of the pizza monument. Collecting all of the Ronis unlocks a new character for you to play as. In all 3 levels, there is a secret chicken dinner pizza for you to find. Finding all of them unlocks a new character. Collecting all the pepperonis as Nun Pizza Noid, aka the default Noid, unlocks Mr. Green, the antagonist of Noid 1. He's a bit slower but has a higher jump. Finding all of the chicken dinner pizzas, again as default Noid, unlocks Crush 40, a Sonic-inspired Noid named for the band Crush 40, responsible for the best Sonic music ever. He's very uncontrollably fast, to be honest, but he's fun to run around as. Finishing the game as default Noid unlocks the best character in the entire game. Oh, look at him, he's so cute! Oh, I love his little Noid sounds. Ah, he's great. I want a figurine of him. His name is Proto-Noid. He's very slow and has a very short double jump. He's actually really bad and awful to play as, but I love him nonetheless. The last character you unlock is Noid. Frankly, it might be the cross Noid. The pizza. The Noid is quite the infamous little creature. I've never seen a fast food mascot be so both very obscure and widely popular, and Noid 2 really highlights that. In the year of our Noid, 2023, he's been presumed dead, but in 2021, Domino's temporarily brought him back for a brief time, for a promotional campaign, and being a special unlockable character in Crash Bandicoot On the Run, despite the fact that he looks ugly as shit. I don't typically have violent thoughts upon the sight of a fictional character, but this is generating some, but that's besides the point.
The Noid is a cult classic mascot, one that I'm personally a fan of, and I think Yonoid 2 is the perfect way to honor his legacy, even if he did get upstaged by a Japanese robot. Now I want pizza, so I'll be back in 30 minutes or less.